Hi, my name's Evelyn Carter and I'm a consultant at Brainstorm Software. Today I'll be taking you through some of the basic navigations of Google Meet, which is our online platform where we do all of our online training and consulting. By the end of today, you should be familiar with all aspects of Google Meet. So you should get a link. Once you click on it, it'll open up a web page like this. We always recommend that you come to our meetings closed off so that you can get a little bit of peace and quiet while we go through the training or the consulting. We always like to see your smiling faces, so a webcam is a great idea. And then either a microphone and speaker, or alternatively, you can use a headset like this. If you don't have a reliable microphone or headset, another option is to dial in with a phone. So you'll notice here on my screen, there's a join and use a phone for audio option. If you click on this, it will give you the details, so what phone number to ring and also the PIN to enter when prompted. So if you guys need, you can dial into our meetings as well. In this example, I'm just going to join now and use my microphone and speaker for the meeting. Let's go. Once you're in the meeting, I'll just go over some of the common buttons that we use. So the one here all the way to the left is if you want to mute yourself. So if you need to take an urgent phone call or if you have some loud background noise, we always suggest to mute yourself during the meeting. And then when you want to talk, you can simply unclick mute and then we'll all be able to hear you. The second one is your camera. So if you need, we can turn off the camera so that if you have someone coming in, again, if you're taking a phone call, you can switch off the camera. We always prefer to see your smiling faces, so we always encourage you to leave your camera on. The third button here is to raise your hand. So during training, especially if we're in large groups, if you guys have a question, you can physically raise your hand as I will be able to see you, or alternatively, you can click this button. It will make a little noise. And I'll also be able to see a little icon, you can see here that you've raised your hand. And then at an appropriate time, I'll stop the meeting and ask, hey Evelyn, what's your question? What can I do for you? Once I've answered your question, or if the question's been answered on its own, you can simply click this button again and the hand will no longer be raised. The next option that we go through is the chat. So if you've got a question, another way that you can ask is you can simply put it here. Again, I will be able to see that someone's typed in a message and I can either respond in chat or I can respond through the meeting. Alright, for the next session I had to join a couple more times just to try to replicate what it would be like with multiple people in the meetings, because what we're going to go over is the different layouts that you can have for Google Meet. So when we're in a meeting and we're just talking, we want to be able to see each other. This tiled layout is really nice. However, if I'm doing training and I want you guys to be able to see me as I'm talking, and I also want you to be able to see my screen as I'm presenting, sometimes the spotlight layout is much better. So I'm just going to show you where you can go through and toggle through different views to find the one that suits you the best. Alright. So to switch between the layouts, I'm just going to click on these three buttons and then I can go to my change layout and I can pick spotlight, which will just spotlight either the screen that's being shared or the speaker that's speaking. I can have sidebar, which again will have the presentation screen plus everyone that's in the meeting on the side, or we can have tiled, which is what we had before. We recommend for training to have spotlight, as it's going to give you the biggest screen to be able to see what I am sharing. Alright, the next thing we go through is how to share your application. So during training, we try to replicate as close as possible to a real life in-person experience, and that means I need to be able to see your faces so I can see your facial expressions, but I also need to be able to see your computer screen, because if I was physically on site, I would be walking around having a look at how everyone's going. So we emulate that in our online meetings by having everyone share their application screen. Now, it's important that when we ask you to share, we just ask you to share the application screen. I'm going to show you the difference between sharing your screen versus sharing your application window and why it's important to just share your application window. I'm going to click on this share, present now. It's the little rectangle with an arrow pointing up. And I'm going to first show you the behavior if I share your entire screen, which is not what we want you to do. So I'm showing you what not to do first. If you share your entire screen, and I click across to the Sightline application window, which is what I have open, then what you're sharing is whatever you see on this screen. So when I'm in the Sightline application, I do see the Sightline application. However, if I get an urgent email that I have to respond to throughout the day, or if I'm browsing something, because I'm sharing the window, not only I, but also potentially everyone else in the meeting is going to be able to see what you're sharing, which we don't want. So that's why we ask you to share the application window. I'm now going to stop sharing. So again, I click the rectangle button with an arrow pointing up, and I select Stop Presenting. Now I'm going to go through and show you how you should properly share your application window so that all I and anyone else in the meeting is going to be able to see is that particular application window. In this example, it's going to be the Cloud Suite Industrial Sightline application window that I would like you guys to share. So again, I come down and I select the Present Now button, which is the rectangle with an arrow pointing up, and I select a window to present. Then I scroll down until I find the Infor Cloud Suite Industrial or the Sightline application, and I select and I share. Now what's being shared on my screen is just my Sightline application. Even if I go and I select a Word document or an Excel document or whatever else I'm presenting, you can only see the Sightline application. So this is what we ask you to do during training, is to just simply share your Sightline application. The next area I want to take you through is Google Meeting mishaps. The first and most common issue is users closing out the entire window rather than just an individual tab. So you have to remember that Google Meet is just a tab on a web page, and you can have multiple tabs open like you see here in the top left. So if I'm wanting to close off a particular tab, we just need to make sure that we're just going to close off the tab, being this little cross here, rather than closing off the entire window, because if we close off the entire window, we're not just closing off the tab we don't need anymore, but we're also going to end up closing off the Google Meeting. This is really common when we're training and producing reports out of the Sightline application that might open up in your default web browser, and then you're just going ahead and closing off the window. So just make sure you're trying to remember to just close off your individual tabs rather than your windows throughout the training. Thanks. The other common mishap is obviously audio issues, whether it's speaker or microphone. So I'm just going to show you the area in which you can change the default microphone or the default speaker. So I'm just going to come into the application and click on these three dots, and then I'm going to select Settings. I can come in now and I can change my default microphone, I can change my default speaker, and I can test both to make sure that it's coming out of the correct speaker. Sometimes it might be that you have multiple different speakers or different headsets connected to your computer. So if you're having audio issues, just come into the settings and see whether you can change your settings to a more logical speaker for you. Thanks so much for watching this video on Google Meet. Hopefully you now know how to navigate through that application, and I hope to see you on an online meeting very, very soon. This has been Evelyn Carter, a consultant from Brainstorm Software, where we talk human in a world of tech. See you next time.